Hey guys, welcome back to the video. So in this video, we're talking all things spoilers for She-Hulk Season 1. So that's right, the She-Hulk finale just aired on Disney+. So in this video, you guys all my spoiler thoughts, including spoiler thoughts on the season, the finale, and ranking all the episodes at the end of this video. And before you get into it, if you guys are new in here and you enjoy all my movie and TV show reviews, reactions, and breakdowns, make sure to subscribe and notification on so you don't miss any video or go live. Both don't waste more time. Let's get into it. First, I want to talk about the finale itself. Now, let me know you guys thought of the finale in the comments down below, but I actually think it is the second best Disney+ MCU finale. Honestly, maybe even the second best Disney Plus finale. I would say it's right behind Loki. I thought it was really good. Now, obviously, the biggest thing to talk about is the literal fourth wall break that happens. She goes into Disney Plus and then goes to Marvel headquarters and talks to Kevin, which technically isn't Kevin Feige, but it's the person that makes all the stuff. And it's a really very meta joke, and I understand it and I really like it. And it's definitely one of the most unique things that they've done in the MCU in general. But at the same time, it just feel like they're kind of trying to make up for their own messes in terms of like all the writing critiques and all these random things that they talk about here. It just definitely feels like they're trying to make up and overcompensate for the lack of writing throughout this show. But I will make an exception because this show has consistently done that. And the way that they result like this entire show, the way that they resolve everything, it makes complete sense for this show specifically. Now, for example, in Moon Knight, they basically do what they did here in She-Hulk, which is kind of like behind the scenes, they literally just cut out like the main action sequence. They did that in Moon Knight, but here they show them cutting out the main action sequence, and it makes sense for this show. You wouldn't really expect a big, massive action sequence at the end of the show. That's just not what this show has been so far. And I think what they do so well is they keep it on brand for what this show is. And a lot of people might view that as a negative thing, but I personally don't. I think that them just cutting out random stuff and literally going to Marvel headquarters is the most She-Hulk thing this show could have done, and I 100% commend them for doing this. Obviously, it's a very ballsy thing to do. I feel like, again, not a lot of people are going to like that choice, but I thought it was very unique. And again, I think it works in this show specifically. The reason why I think it works specifically in just this show, and again, no other show would be able to pull this off, in my opinion at least, is because throughout the show, we've had 9 30-minute episodes focusing on Jennifer Walters' character. Obviously, every Disney Plus TV show has had the issue of you're going through it, and by the end, it's way too fast. You've been going way too slow in the very beginning, and you don't have a story set up. And that was kind of the problem going into this show. But what this show did differently is that it used its, honestly, caveats to its advantage. It used all of these minor story building things to build it up over time, and at the end they had a very easy solution that also let us resolve all of the other character arcs. Now, this is just my opinion again, but I personally think that the finale did a great job with not only resolving the conflict with the whole Marvel Kevin thing, which is very unique. I was not expecting that at all. I literally shouted a couple times, but I also think in terms of just resolutions at the end of this episode, though it was very cameo festy, I think it works. I think Daredevil's inclusion is cool here. I think it's just a funny little thing, but also, of course, Sakar's introduction here. Alright guys, I say Sakar a lot. I know it's Scar. That's my bad. I completely forgot. But yeah, I keep mentioning it later in this video, so just pretend like I'm saying Scar. That one felt more forced than Daredevil, to be honest. Even Hulk coming in the finale, that wasn't that weird to me because, again, he was in episode 1. But I will say, Sakar's inclusion was just a little bit forced in my opinion. Sakar's inclusion felt necessary because we knew that they were doing something along those lines after like the first 2-3 episodes. But at the same time, it definitely just felt like, okay, they're setting up the future. They're setting up New World Order, whatever other movie there is. And the Kevin bot, again, I don't know if this is all lies. I don't know if they were just like BSing to have some fun and just poke fun at fan theories, but they did say wait till his own movie for whatever future stuff he has to build up. So maybe the universal rights stuff that we talked about in episodes 1 and 2 are coming true. Maybe Marvel is going to end up making a Hulk movie. But again, I think overall the finale was really great. But now I want to talk about the season as a whole. I think this is one of the better Marvel Disney Plus TV shows. I will be dropping a full video ranking every single one of the shows later this weekend, so subscribe so you don't miss that. But I really like this show overall. Again, I think it's unique in the way that it's not falling into the 6 1-hour episodes that honestly end up being like 45 minutes, but it's the 9, 20 to 25 to 30-minute episodes, and I think it really works here. And I think that the format of the show is why it succeeds so much. Again, you can spend so little time with the overall story, but just build Jennifer Walters' character and then do a bunch of BS crazy stuff like like they did at the end of this episode, and it still all makes sense for this show specifically. Again, everything I'm saying here, it is a caveat for this show specifically because that's how they built it. The place that I'm most scared at after the show is how She-Hulk would fit into other projects, because I feel like she has such a unique and distinct style, which I think she'll work in projects like Daredevil Born Again, and I think like maybe in the earlier episodes before we get into like deep emotional stuff, which I think could also work because She-Hulk went through a lot of trauma in this show so far. And so I think that She-Hulk's future in the MCU was weirdly shaped in this show, but not in a bad way necessarily. I just don't really see her fitting into other show formats, but I'm excited to see how they pull that off. One of my biggest flaws with the show overall has been the inconsistent writing, strictly because every week you have a different side story that, yes, is important to the overall story, but it feels like having one full episode on that is not really worth it. And I was talking about this when we were getting to episodes 5, 6, 7, and that's kind of where the buildup was kind of just leading nowhere for me personally. But obviously, you know, last episode we had the Daredevil stuff as well as all of the hacking into her phone intelligentsia stuff, and this episode capitalized a lot. The finale really did a great job of having everything at its peak and really making everything feel worth it. Having Todd be the leader of intelligentsia, having Abomination speaking at this thing, I think that it was all very well culminated, and that's why I really cut the show slack in terms of writing, because it did end up building it up. But I will say, individual episodes wise, a lot of these episodes I wouldn't even go back to rewatch. I would say, other than like my top 3 episodes, which again I will be ranking the episodes at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. Other than the top 3 episodes, I probably wouldn't go back and rewatch this show a lot, to be honest with you. Spoiler alert, episode 1 isn't in my top 3 episodes, but I will say I probably rewatch that one again just because it feels so away from the rest of the show in a really good way. It feels like a very unique and individual origin story, which I think is very, very cool, and that's one of the most unique storytelling methods that the MCU's had in general. Obviously, of course, other than this finale, that was absolutely crazy. But another thing that I want to say was I really like the way that She-Hulk introduced all of these different characters and the message behind the show in general. Whenever she's talking to the Kevin bot, I think that it's very interesting the way that she talks about how, you know, how the show had a lot of emotional impact and how it really was an emotional study on Jennifer Walters being torn apart by She-Hulk, the media, all of these different things. And by the end of the day, they just wanted cameos at the end and all these random characters coming from random places. She even says Hulk came out of outer space for no reason in the finale of my own show. I think it's very interesting the way that they play all of these things together, and it really does make fun of what the MCU has become in terms of just bringing a lot of characters together. And I think in some ways it works, but in the Marvel Disney Plus TV shows, it hasn't necessarily worked for me. I think in the movies, like Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, the Illuminati and Multiverse of Madness, I think there it works because they aid the story. But in the shows, it doesn't really work for me personally. And again, that's just a personal thing. Maybe other people like the cameos in the shows, but I feel like shows are very different when it comes to cameos, strictly because it's definitely impacting the majority of the story when they're taking up the majority of a single episode and not really having a good impact. On the other hand, Daredevil was a character that had a cameo in one episode, in the 8th episode, but his impact was a lot more useful than these like random other cameos like Hulk just randomly coming back in the finale. That goes hand in hand with the Sakaar thing. I think that was very weird as well. I mean, obviously it sets up Hulk's future and She-Hulk's future in the MCU, but at the same time, it's just like, I don't know, it didn't really fit for me personally. That's pretty much all I have to say about the season as a whole. Again, I think it's a good season. I'm going to be talking more about it in my Marvel Disney Plus TV shows ranked video, which will be coming very soon. But now to rank the episodes. So in 9th place is going to be episode 3, The People versus Emil Blonsky. This is the one that has a side plot with the Asgardian elf. This is an absolutely horrendous episode in my opinion. If anything, this is probably like the only like straight up bad episode in the entire show. The 8th place is going to be episode 2, Superhuman Law. This is where Jen gets hired at the law firm. I think this is a very interesting episode. It does a lot of good building after episode 1, especially since episode 1 was so detached, but overall I still just think this episode is all right. 7th place is episode 5, Mean Green and Straight Poured Into These Jeans. I think this is a very cool episode. It's definitely the most like court heavy episode, which I really did like, and overall I just thought this was a cool more lawyer side of the show, which I was really excited for. But in 6th place is episode 7, The Retreat. I think this episode is great in terms of just characterizing Jennifer Walters more. We get her to talk more about the split decisions within herself, the She-Hulk side, the Jennifer Walters side. This definitely felt like one of the more personal episodes, which I could commend them for. In 5th place is episode 1, the intro to this show, A Normal Amount of Rage. I think this is one of the most unique origin stories in the entire MCU. I love the way this plays out, but my biggest caveat on the reason this episode gets bumped all the way down to number 5 out of 9 is because of the final few minutes. It really just messes up the way that this episode is heading. You have that random court fight with Titania, and apparently this was all cut around because this was meant to be in episode episode 8, which I'm guessing once they realized Daredevil could be in the show and they had the rights to him, they moved him back and all of this stuff got flip-flopped, and it just felt very, very weird. Throwing off the entire episode, this great and phenomenal origin story that we had going for us, I just think that very ending messed the entire episode up, at least just the flow of it. And then in fourth place is episode 6, Just Jen. This is the wedding episode. I thought this fight against Titania was a million times better than what we got in episode 1. This fight is so fun. This episode as a whole is very fun. Of course, she meets, I think his name is Josh, who obviously ends up being part of Intelligentsia, but I really like this episode. It makes us feel like She-Hulk is finally winning, and I really like that. Of course, we find out that it literally only gets worse for her, but I like that little glimmer of hope this episode gives us before all of the shit goes down. But now to the top 3. Before we get to my top 3, let me know your episodes ranked for She-Hulk in the comments down below. But again, in third place is gonna be Is This Not Real Magic, episode 4. This is the one with Wong, the Magician, Tiffany. This is such a funny episode. Honestly, probably the funniest episode of the entire series. I think this one is just so great. I don't really know how to describe it. I mean, it has a good amount of action when Wong and She-Hulk are fighting those little demon things. I feel like it has a lot of great humor. You have the court stuff. I feel like overall, it is just a really great episode. But in second place is the finale, episode 9. Like I said before, I think this is the second best MCU Disney Plus TV show finale. I think it's really great. I think it takes a lot of great and very unique creative choices, and I can really commend them for that. Not much else to say about this one since I just talked about it, but again, I do think it's a great finale. But that leaves one episode left. My favorite episode of the entire show is, of course, Ribbit and Rip It, episode 8, the one with Daredevil. Honestly, I don't even know if you could take this opinion seriously because I'm so biased when it comes to Daredevil stuff. I absolutely love him in this show. I love his humor. I love how his character is transformed from Daredevil season 3. I love that they literally even just play a little bit of his Daredevil theme. This episode is so great. I think this one might be the most well-balanced in terms of tones overall. You have humor, you have seriousness. Obviously, the end of the episode is absolutely insane, but you also have this love and this tension between Daredevil and She-Hulk. It has so many great elements. This honestly also felt like the absolute longest episode. I don't know the runtime compared to the other episodes. Okay, it's the second longest episode. It is 36 minutes, and a normal amount of rage, which is episode 1, is 38 minutes. So this one definitely did feel like the longest episode to me personally. I think what makes this episode feel so long is that they do so much. They go so many places. They have the court scene in the beginning, then they go to the warehouse. They have this stuff on the car garage. They have this stuff at the end, at the gala thing. There is just so much and so much story happening here that I love how it all comes together. And just this episode is easily the best one. It's honestly, in my opinion, probably the best MCU Disney Plus episode we've gotten so far. But guys, those are all my thoughts on She-Hulk season 1. Hopefully we get a season 2 because I really did like this show and I'm very excited to see the future of She-Hulk in the MCU. Again, let me know your ranking for all the episodes in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.